Oh, Brian, you forgot to mention Section 1. You skipped over Section 1. No, I didn't. I was waiting to do it right now. Thank you very much. Section 1 says, yeah, these freedoms and rights can be overridden, but under very, very strict conditions. And the first thing I'll say about this, which I said to the lawyers this week, who are contacting me now and saying, will you help us in the legal challenge, and how do you remember Section 1? And I say, I can't wait. They said, well, you might be called to court. One lawyer said to me this week, you might be called and have to get on the stand. I said, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'd like the opportunity to look every senior judge in this country, every appeal court, that's the highest court in each province, and every judge in the Supreme Court, I'd be able to look them in the eye and say, Your Honor, when we wrote Section 1, it was for war and insurrection. It was to be an unusual circumstance when the nation, as a nation, was in dire straits. There was about to be loss. The nation was about to be lost. That's what Section 1 was all about. It had to do with a dire... Why go to all the trouble of building a Charter of Rights and Freedoms and just see it collapse based upon some fictitious news about a virus for which 99% of the population get recovered anyway? It's like the old fellow on the wharf in Newfoundland used to say years ago. He was a real bright fellow, and then somebody would say, you got that wrong. He said, you think I'm stunned? Did the judges think we're stunned? We knew what we were doing when we put Section 1 in the Constitution. And besides not only having it to deal with war and insurrection, which was the context into which it was built, because the Constitution is very hard to open. I mean, we knew that in '81. I mean, there was a nervous tension in that room that you could cut with 10 knives. I mean, it was just unbelievable, because we knew this was a chance that wouldn't come for generations. You try to open the Constitution today, it'd be impossible, and will be quite likely for many generations to come. 7 provinces, 50% of the population, just to get it. Some of the things changed. Some of it is unanimity, others it's 7 out of 10 and 50% of the population. You won't get it. I'll come to that in a minute, why. But in any case, here we are. So even with insurrection or war, here's what you had to do in order to violate or to override these rights and freedoms. What did you have to do? You had to justifiably demonstrate what you were doing. Not just justify. We weren't satisfied with justify. It's demonstrably justify. That's putting a heavy load on it. Demonstrably justify. What else? By law. Not by regulation. By law. By a new law. Don't drag up some other law from 10 years ago or 20 years ago and add some more regulations to that. By law. And I interpret that to be new law. By law. Reasonable limits. And number 4, that were consistent with a free and democratic society. Lots of luck in meeting all of that, governments. Lots of luck in trying to meet that. That's what that meant. That's what that means. And judges today at the lower courts so far, in the challenges that have come up, have ignored. You'll hear people talk about, even lawyers talk about the reasonable limits clause. No, sir. It's not the reasonable limits clause. It's demonstrably demonstrate with reasonable limits by law in a free and democratic society. Don't pick out one because it was convenient for you. List all 4. Put them together and see how hard it is to override that Constitution and those freedoms. Very, very difficult. So that's what's happening today. A lot of premiers and ministers are getting very bad advice from some people in their office or in the Justice Department or wherever, that somehow they can skirt around this. Well, I'm telling those people you can't skirt around it, and I'm going to stay on my 2 feet as long as there's breath in this body of mine to argue with them, and I want to get to those courts and tell those people they don't know what they're talking about.